Hi everyone, welcome. I hope you are all having a great day. We're excited to have you here this afternoon to learn a little bit more about all the great things happening within our Dean of Students office here at the Crown Family School of Social Work Policy and Practice. A couple housekeeping things. We will be, Ron and myself will be in the chat as your admissions team members. So if you have any specific questions, we'll do our best to answer them or save them until the end for Kristen to answer. Um, and we are recording this session, so if you need to go back and rewatch anything, we'll post this on our YouTube page this afternoon, so you'll be able to go back and rewatch any or all parts of it. I think that should be everything. So I will turn it over to Kristen Reid Salomon, our Dean of Students, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
Hey, thank you, Aaliyah. Thank you, Ron. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here with you today. I know I'm probably joined by both prospective and newly admitted students. Just happy to have you. Happy that Crown is a school that you're interested in, and happy to share more about how we support students and how we enrich your student life while you're here at Crown. So I will start by sharing some slides really quickly. And we'll get started. Um, 1 second. All right, awesome. Okay. Can you all see the whole screen?
We're seeing their notes, so just flip the.
Mm, There we go. Okay. It's a little technical difficulty. Okay. Okay. Are you seeing the slideshow? Yes. Yes. I'm not sure why the notes are still showing.
So if you go up to the display settings in the
Mhm.
top, Kristen, and then either, yeah, like flip.
Wow. Okay. Is that better?
Yes,
Okay,
perfect.
perfect. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Apologies, y'all, for the quick technical difficulties. Okay, again, I'm Kristen Reid Salomon. I'm the Dean of Students Diversity and Inclusion for Crown. I have been at Crown for 9 years. I've been in the Dean of Students role for almost four, and I've had a pretty long career in higher education. I've worked in higher ed and student affairs for about 20 years, mostly in the Chicagoland area. I'm from Chicago, born and raised on the South Side, and live in the South suburbs with my family now. I've got three kids, two high schoolers, a junior and a freshman, and then almost kindergartner. So definitely keeps me busy. Um, I got into this work because I was an involved student. I was an RA. I was involved in student government and lots of student organizations. I really got involved in a lot of activism on my campus. I went to University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. That's where I did my undergraduate work. And yeah, I just fell in love with higher ed. I fell in love with supporting students and helping people navigate through all of the systems in higher education so that you can achieve all your goals and dreams. So that's what led me here to Crown. I'm really excited to work at Crown and work with students who care about social justice, care about people, care about just bettering our society in a variety of different ways. So um, I'll tell you a little bit more about our office, but just wanted to share a little bit more about myself before we got started. As I mentioned, I lead the Dean of Students office. There's a few quick facts about us. We really are your student affairs team at Crown. If you've heard of a Dean of Students, sometimes that might be associated with conduct or maybe other things, or maybe just feel a little bit like, ooh, that's serious. But really, our Dean of Students office is your student affairs team. We're like a mini student affairs hub that helps all students pretty much from orientation all the way through graduation, and helps you to navigate all of the things that come come along with being a student at UChicago and at Crown. So we've got 7 full-time staff members. We are hiring 2 new staff members, so we'll soon be a team of 9. And we have 3 graduate assistants as well. Our team is comprised of 2 different departments, academic advising and the student experience, and then our career and leadership development department. I'll talk more about those two in a little bit. But here's just a snapshot of all of the different things we manage. So I mentioned we are like a mini student affairs team, and you can see we do all the things from orientation to registration and advising, referrals to campus resources, student involvement and engagement, career and leadership development, all your graduation planning. We're the team that manages it all, and all sorts of things in between that. I'm sure I didn't mention all of the other things that we do. But here's some of the faces behind our team. We've just got just a team that really cares about the student experience. We really put students first. We really value student input and feedback. We ourselves have been in your shoes, and so we always think back, what kind of support would we have wanted when we were in your shoes? So yeah, just know that when students are at Crown, you're really well supported. Okay, so a couple things I'm going to talk about. First, our advising and student experience team, and then I'll talk about career and leadership development. So through our advising and student experience team, I mentioned we help with your transitions, which is orientation and graduation, really helping to make sure that you are fully onboarded to the university, you know all about the resources. Orientation, we have 2 sessions, one in the summer for our advanced standing students, and then one in the sessions in the fall for part-time, full-time international students. You'll get more information about orientation as the months come, but it's really a great time to kind of welcome you into the community. There's a lot of events, lots of things going on. So if you are a newly admitted student, certainly already be paying attention to your emails about just all sorts of orientation and onboarding information. We also do quite a bit of advising. We really want to help make sure you know what your degree requirements are. If you're looking to do any changes, take classes outside of Crown, need to take a leave of absence for any reason, we are the team that meets with you to make sure that you know what all your options are, what the impact of those options are, etc. So we do both one-on-one appointments with students, and we also do group advising appointments with students. We do different programs throughout the year that might tell students about a specific type of resource or help them with a certain process like registration. Sometimes it can be a little, yeah, unnerving for some students who are coming into UChicago who are used to a different type of registration system. So we offer sessions that help you know what to do and feel more confident going through those processes. Um, we also make sure that we regularly communicate with students about resources, deadlines, funding opportunities, fellowship opportunities, etc. Anything that we think would enhance or enrich your student experience, we regularly communicate. We send weekly messages to students and kind of compile everything. So you're not getting a bunch of messages from us, but we really think it's important to be sort of that voice for what's happening university-wide that we think you should know about. Um, the other thing I'll mention is with faculty. Depending on what your interest areas are, we coordinate with our curriculum office to have faculty advising panels where faculty can talk more about a certain pathway or level of practice. But we really want to make sure that we're merging both the things that you're learning in the classroom with what your career opportunities might be afterwards. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of that in the career leadership section. So in addition to Crown, we also liaise with a few other areas to make sure that you have plenty of support. So for any students that need academic accommodations in class or in field, we liaise pretty closely with our student disability office as well as our field education office. We've got a specific liaison within our team, but all of us are well versed on making sure to how we implement accommodations within class and making sure our faculty know all the ins and outs and have all the resources they also need to make sure we are creating a really great learning environment for everyone. For writing support, especially for students who might be coming back from or coming back to school after a long break. I know sometimes writing can be a source of concern or just challenge. So we do have a writing specialist on our team. He's part-time and he really is great at reviewing outlines or drafts or really helping you to organize your thoughts or really just giving great feedback and edits. on papers, as well as our librarian. Very helpful if you're looking for certain references, resources, etc. And then our English Language Institute for any student where English is a second language. They offer lots of workshops, courses, conversation clubs, really, really great programming just to help students build up their confidence with the English language. So lots of great supports both within Crown and through Chicago as a whole. Okay, before I go to career development, are there any questions about academic support or anything that I mentioned so far? Okay, I'll keep going. Okay, so the other department within the Dean of Students office is our career development and leadership area. So career development is key. We know so for so many students, the reason why you're coming to grad school is to further your career, is to or change a career. So this programming is really really key. So we split up our career development program into three main areas: career education. This is really about preparing you for all of those employment opportunities. So we've got a virtual career library, we've got sample resumes, cover letters. We can meet with students and do a resume, cover letter review, etc. Making sure that students know, you know, about certain pathways or what the career options are in either a direct practice area versus a area. So really career education is all about just preparing you, helping you to plan for those specific opportunities. Then we also provide career connections. This is where we might have panels, alumni mentoring programs, um, all sorts of things, informational interview days, all sorts of things that really connect students to what their options might be, what other opportunities might be. We also will have licensure presentations or have employers come and table or do a presentation about their career opportunities. I think the great thing about Crown is we're really well known, especially within the Chicagoland area. So we do have a lot of employers who send us jobs who really want our graduates. And we sometimes bring them onto campus so that they can do an information session for you to let you know about what their career opportunities might be. And we also, I'll talk about this I think on the next slide, but have our own job board. So when employers, alums send us positions, we post them on our own internal board just for our students so that you know those opportunities. And then we have career experiences. These are really immersive opportunities that really help to build your professional networks. One of our highlights is Washington Week, where we take a group of about 25, 30 students to Capitol Hill so they can learn about how social work is lived and experienced and shows up in that setting. So they're visiting different government agencies, NGOs, think tanks, etc. We're meeting with alums and also folks who are either in the social work field or connected in some way, folks who are social service leaders in the area. So it's a really, really great event. It's been in existence for, I think, over 20 years at this point, but a really hallmark immersive experience that we provide amongst a few others. So I mentioned some of the resources a little bit earlier, like our online job posting portal. We also do a career digest. So it's a weekly newsletter that's giving you some kind of information, whether that's about a workshop, resume or cover letter reviews, a speaker, an employer coming to campus, et cetera, any kind of event that would really help you with furthering, again, your own career development. We compile that into one weekly newsletter and send that to students. So that's separate from our DOS digest. And then we also have different groups where we encourage our students, even as first year students, join some of these groups, connect with alums, see what kind of jobs they're putting in some of the groups. We just think, just building relationships with alums and folks in these areas is really key. So we encourage a lot of that and offer a lot of resources and tools for all of our students. So the other piece of the CLD team is leadership development. We really believe strongly that all of our students are leaders in your own specific ways. And we really believe in helping you find your own leadership identity while you're here at Crown. And we do that kind of in a few different ways, but we look at it in the same way that our faculty look at our curriculum through the micro, meso, and macro lens. So with micro, we really think it's important to think about self, again, your own personal identity development. We think every great leader has to first start with knowing themselves, their own style, how they move, how they communicate, etc. That personal identity development we think is a key foundation for all of our students. Um, on the meso end, really thinking about group, we think student leadership and involvement is really a great way to demonstrate this particular value and skill. So we want students to be involved. Think about taking leadership roles within certain groups, clubs, organizations, committees on campus. So how can you think about your leadership as it relates to a specific group or affinity group? And then on the larger end, macro, on the community end, we really stress the sense of belonging and all of the community engagement programming and activities that we might do, how we recognize and award our community members, and thinking about just things that are bigger than Crown, our commitment to Chicago, to the South Side and West Side, et cetera. I'll talk a little bit more about just how we live some of this out, but know that these are kind of our key areas. So for self, we offer a few different options. Obviously, we've got programming. We do a Chicago weekend, similar in some ways to our Washington week, but this one is very much geared towards Chicago and thinking about identity and working in community within Chicago. So we have some sessions that tie to your own self awareness. We do a Leading Through Identity alumni panel where we've got alums talking about how their identities have impacted their work and their leadership within certain communities. And then we have courses, of course. We have a really great course on self-awareness and social work that we hear every year. Students really learn more about themselves when they take that course. On the group side, we've got our own Student Government Association and our Crown Student Organizations, aka CSOs. We really value involvement and engagement within Crown, and so this is a really great way to do that with your fellow students. Um, SGA is sort of the voice. I'll talk a little bit more about them in a bit, but the voice of the student body and our Crown student organizations. You can form any that you like. It can be based on a certain topic. It can be based on an identity. It can just be, I think we have a crafting club, so it can really be anything, but it's just a space for you to gather, build relationships, build community. Our student organizations have funding as well. So a really great way to be a leader and to be involved and engaged. There's also registered student organizations on campus. So if you want to get outside of Crown and think about something that's more campus wide, there's a lot of organizations that our students join that have students from business, law, med school, biological sciences. So if you're really wanting to have more of an integrated, kind of community experience, you can have that too through the RSOs. And then, of course, a course that you could take through Crown is our intergroup dialogue course, all about dialogue and communication across difference. We really value intergroup dialogue within Crown. We'll talk a lot more about that during orientation, but this course is really an amazing course. So many of our students have taken it and have really taken those skills into their professional practice and have been just so appreciative of all of the lessons in that course. And then on the community side, we have several events. I mentioned Washington Week. We also have an advocacy day where we go to Springfield. That's the capital of Illinois, where we meet with our legislators about different priorities. We're essentially sort of learning what it's like to lobby about issues that matter to social workers. And so it's a really great day, a lot of community building as well, but also thinking about the larger impact of our field. So great time. We do lots of community mixers, whether that's during orientation or graduation. So again, all of those things we believe are tied to leadership development and to that community macro aspect. And then lastly, a course that ties into that macro lens. We've got a World Making Through Black and Queer Trans Feminism course. Amazing course, was just launched last year and got so many great reviews from students, but really thinking about, creating your own realities, creating your own world and what that looks like through this lens. So really, really great programming classes or et cetera, in these different areas. I'm going to touch a little bit about our student leadership opportunities. I mentioned our student government and our CSOs. So student government, we do have elections every spring. We think it's important that students do have a voice. They have a seat at the table as it relates to meeting with the dean, meeting with me, meeting with different committees. And so SGA really digs in, really represents any issues that students might have, any concerns or any things that are going well that we need to keep doing. This group also uses some of our students' student activity fund to help with programming. So they approve programming, they approve professional development requests, supply funding. We have a hospitality hub that supplies food and menstrual products for free to our students. SGA has a cap and gown rental program, so students don't have to pay a hefty fee for caps and gowns, which are just going up by the year. And then they plan a really, really cool graduation party, oftentimes on a rooftop somewhere in downtown Chicago right before graduation. So, really, really fun event that we always look forward to. Okay, and this is a sample of some of the CSOs. They change year to year. Again, new ones can be developed, old ones can be, revived. Yeah, we really just value involvement. And I know some folks will think, oh, graduate school, it's a little bit different, but I really think for so many students, this is where they found some of their best friends by being involved and engaged in some of these organizations. And it really just helps you to have a community of folks outside of class, outside of field, to just be with. So yeah, couldn't say enough good things about these groups. I mentioned there were some other ways to get involved, build community on campus at large. So I talked a lot, obviously, about Crown, but certainly there are other offices, centers that we encourage students to be involved in as you see fit. There's lots of programming that they do, opportunities, jobs, etc. So all of these offices, our graduate students are participating in them. I don't know how much you all know about U Chicago, but it is mostly comprised of graduate students. So you might think, oh, some of these areas it's mostly undergraduate students. I think you'd be surprised at how many graduate students are a part of all of these different areas and are pretty much running the campus, in my opinion. So it's absolutely geared for graduate students. And these are centers, resources, offices that you all can all participate in. Okay. I wanted to just say a couple of things about diversity, equity, and inclusion. You might have noticed in my title, I'm the Dean of Students, Diversity and Inclusion. So I just want to touch on these being really just core values for us within Crown, obviously for our profession, but certainly for us as people. I feel like I can confidently speak for everyone in admissions and DOS and field and curriculum, et cetera. This is something we all think about. And even though this is in my title, this is a part of all of our jobs. And it's a part of um, just our everyday experience within Crown. So I just thought it was important to even note some of the ways that we live out these values in action. Obviously, through our curriculum, we have so many courses that touch on identity and diversity in different ways. But we do require students to take two diversity classes as part of our curriculum because we value it so much. We have you take a foundational diversity course as well as a specialized diversity course. Both are giving you very, very important knowledge and skills as you go into your careers. The co-curricular programming, the lectures, the trainings, the fellowships and opportunities we have. We're always thinking about how are we getting to a new community? How are we thinking about identity as we consider those programs? I talked a lot about leadership and engagement. So I think this is a thread throughout all of the programming that happens through our leadership development end. And then we really look to feedback that we've gotten from students and from the larger Crown community to guide our work in this area. So we did two different kind of, I think, main um, activities, for lack of a better term, but we had a task force for radical transformation in 2015, and then we did a school-wide climate study in 2022 that absolutely guides our direction. On our website, we also have a link to our roadmap, which shows all of the work that we're doing in this area since we had the climate study in 2022. So I think it's important for us to hold ourselves accountable, to always be asking the questions, to be assessing about our climate. Are we living out, again, the values that we teach? We always have to ask ourselves that and to reflect. And so that climate study was an opportunity to do that. So yeah, and then again, our commitment to dialogue and free expression. Free expression is huge at U Chicago. When you get here in the fall, and you'll learn a lot more, you'll hear a lot more about it. But really, a part of that free expression for us is really the commitment to dialogue. Because when you're thinking about dialogue, you're considering that person's humanity. You're really listening to understand, not necessarily listening to argue. And it's really coming from a place of true understanding and honoring someone's human dignity. And so that's sort of also a thread throughout all of our diversity and inclusion work as well. So I know I said a lot of things. Um, I'm going to open up the floor now for questions. Um, and thank you all so much for listening. And yeah, the floor is yours.
Hey, thanks, Kristen. I also wanted to mention, I've often said this in webinars, and what I really appreciate about the Dean of Students office so much is that when I went through my own graduate program experience, both for my master's and with my doctoral program, matter of fact, there was so little in terms of programming. It was entirely an academic experience. So some of you who I've talked to in the past, I've probably said this out loud a couple times, right? You may have heard this already, but yeah, it was such an academic experience. I went to class, I did the classwork, did the readings, did the papers, did the presentations, left, went home, because I was commuting. I wasn't living on campus at the time as a master's student. And so it was really refreshing and really nice. And it made me think about, what did I not have, in my master's and my doctoral program preparation that there would be so many programming, that there were features, speakers, presentations. So there is a lot more care, I think, that goes into the experience here. Not to say that my experience, but it was fine as an academic experience, but as far as like this with the programming and the supports and the resources, like I don't remember of any of that, different time too, different institutions, but still. So I just wanted to kind of, share and affirm that as well.
So, no, thank you, Ron. I relate to that so much. I feel the same way. So um, I appreciate the kind words in the chat too.
I do have a question if I may.
Please do go for it.
Okay. So Dean, my question for you is I'm coming from an experience as a salesperson for
Hmm.
decades, right? And work for me was all about wins on a daily basis. And those wins were based on what I did, what I accomplished, what I overcame. And I have to believe that considering a field like this, I would have to make a shift in my mindset as it relates to what a win looks like. And I was wondering if you could just help me see how that shift could be made and
Mm,
what the wins are like when it's no longer about you, but it's about someone else's development.
absolutely. I think that's a great question. A nice one to kind of reflect on and think about too. Um, my immediate thought is we certainly tell students, especially students who are shifting from one career, into social work, to give yourself some grace, especially in the first couple of quarters to really yeah, I think come to a place where you're settling some of the things you've learned and been conditioned in your mind, and then the things that you're going to be learning and unpacking in class and in field. I think a really great space for students to process is in their field seminars, where you're going to be with a cohort of folks. You'll be led by a field consultant, someone who has experience, who has gone through or worked in maybe the same sort of place that your field placement might be in. Um, but really you all become kind of your support group, and can really help kind of dive a little bit deeper and process. There's reflections you have to do that really encourage you to think deeply, about some of these concepts, because you're right. Especially if you have many years of doing things one way or looking at things one way, it's going to take some time. So we also say, yeah, give yourself that grace and try not to have that pressure, at least on yourself in that first quarter. We are on quarters, and I'm sure that this may have come up, but it goes quick, 10 weeks, really nine, if you're including the finals week. It goes really quick, so we can't expect you to come around to that mindset right away. But the fact that you're already thinking about it, already sort of preparing for this, I actually think is it goes a long way, because you're going to be thinking and reflecting all the way up until you would get into the program, and then we'll just help keep it going from there. So. And that's something else. This is lifelong learning. It's not like, oh, I got a couple quarters and I got it. It's something that just continues. the more you learn, the more classes you take, the more you realize you don't know, the more you realize how much you've, unconsciously, you know what I mean, taking in certain messages and whatnot. So no, I think it's a great question. It speaks to where you're at and how you're thinking about your own development and growth and learning. And those are the kind of students we want in the program. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Because there's a question in the chat about how many courses are required in each term or each
Yeah, great
quarter.
question. So it depends on which program you're in. So if you're full time, 3 courses per quarter. If you're part time, 2 courses per quarter. Okay, and the courses are generally once a week for a few hours. Is it 3 hours? Yeah,
Yeah,
once a
two
week for.
hours and 50 minutes, technically. But once you get past that 2:30, it's 3 hours.
Yes. So yeah, great question. Okay. Thank you, Abdul. I fully agree. That's again one of the reasons I'm still at Crown too, is this commitment to diversity, to inclusion, to again living out our values. That's so important. So I'm glad you see that too.
I had a question. I actually have two questions. One is a financial question, and I'm not sure if it's the right arena to ask it, but I'll go with that one first.
Yeah.
So I live in Maine currently, and if I was accepted, um, in my application, I obviously am out of state student. If I was accepted, we would move to the area. Does that impact the payment for the first semester or the second semester I would be paying if I got in for the term? Just curiously.
I don't think so.
No, so we, being a private institution, we do not have like in-state versus out-of-state, if that's the question. It's the same
Yeah.
tuition, and same
Okay.
scholarship. So nothing changes for no matter
Okay.
where a student is, if they're international, domestic, not in Chicago or in
Okay.
Chicago.
So I guess that was just for your purposes to see who's applying. It had nothing to do with
Yeah,
the
it's
finances.
correct.
Gotcha.
Demographic
Uh,
information is helpful to know where people are coming from,
gotcha.
for recruiting in the future and things. But
Gotcha. And then my second question is I'm applying to the dual program, the divinity and the social work program at the
Okay.
University of Chicago.
Yeah.
Um, and if I get in, hopefully either one or the other, both would be great. So how does it work? You get into one and you decide to do one or the other, or is there because some of the schools I've applied to, you do the divinity first and then the social work. And would I be talking, how does it all work? Yeah, I'm just curious about that.
I totally understand. The dual degree, journey, I know can be probably a little confusing. So you're doing the right things. You've applied to both programs. I think we like when a student applies to both programs, and then I think we start divinity first,
You can
and
go
then
either way. So the only requirement in it's from Divinity is that you have to have 2 consecutive years in the div school. So that could, and students have done it either way. You could either do year one in Crown, then years 2 and 3 in Divinity. In year 4, when you finish up your Crown classes and your second field placement, you're splitting that with Divinity. Or you could do years 1 and 2 with Divinity, and then years 3 and 4 with Crown. So it's really kind of up to you on what works best for you. But once you're admitted, and you could also, like, if you were to start at Divinity, you could apply to Crown later, or if you started at Crown, you could apply to Divinity for your second year. So there's still time but if you've already applied to both, so once you know, then you kind of make that decision, who do you start with? And that's really up to you because either way works.
yep, absolutely. And then you should know we liaise with the Dean of Students office in Divinity for your advising to make sure you know what courses. We sometimes also may pre-register dual degree students, just knowing that you got to take certain things at certain times to get both in. So yeah, and then at the end you'd graduate with both degrees. But yeah, depending on the year, you'd either be fully in residency in Divinity or fully in residency at Crown.
Gotcha. And I'm sorry, one last question. So I put in both of the applications already. One of the references I've been using, they haven't been super great at putting in that reference, and I'm just missing pretty much that one reference. And I'm wondering if I add another reference and they put that in, so there's three references, but that fourth is still waiting. Do you guys look at that application, or do I still have to wait until all four are in?
No, typically, because the requirement's three, so when we have three received, even if there are four names, typically we'll kind of be monitoring that, and then we'll reach out to the applicant to say, because you never know if that one that's missing is the one like that the applicant really wants to have
Yeah,
been received, right? Depending on who it is. So we'll reach out to the applicant and say, okay, you have the three, would you like to move forward or do you want to wait? And actually, most students are like, no, that's fine, go ahead. But we do have applicants who are like, I'd really like for this one to come in, so can you hold? And that's fine. So we kind of will work together for that.
okay. So if you have the three and you're waiting for a fourth, you have to make a decision whether to stick with that three or wait to the fourth until you look at the application.
Yeah, we don't want to move it forward, like I say, because if you really wanted that considered and for whatever reason, who knows what impact it could have on the application decision by the review committee, by the reviewers. So we'd rather have you confirm, like the applicant confirm that it's okay to move forward with the three, rather than just make that decision for you. If you put in the four names, then, we want to honor that.
Sure. And then this is due on the 20th of March or the 11th of March is the deadline. Or am I wrong? April 1st? It's one of
April
those.
1st is our deadline.
Okay,
Yeah.
there we go.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, and we always sort of allow a grace period too. So it's like as long as you're submitting by the first, we have some time for like because when you're relying on recommenders, like the letters will come in when they come in, right? And so we honor that. And so once it's complete, we'll move it forward.
Great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. See, there's a question about grad housing as well as mandatory field hours. Let's see, what should we go first? Housing, probably. Okay, so I'll note there is not specific graduate housing. However, our U Chicago grad team does offer some housing resources and support. They have a list of places. They have a roommate finding, system. And there's certainly in this Hyde Park for sure area, people are used to it being students. There's a lot of apartments in this area, so you shouldn't have any trouble finding an apartment. Once students are admitted, we'll have a Facebook group as well, so students can find roommates or ask questions through there. Um, the great thing is, yeah, I don't know that we've had a student who's not been able to find, a place. So there's a lot of good options for sure. Thank you, Ron, for putting that link in there. And then yes, mandatory field hours, absolutely. For a master's in social work, you will need to have mandatory field practicum hours. For your first year, the requirement is 440 hours. 400 is in your specific field practicum, and then 40 is some of our field preparation programming that you'll do at the start of the academic year. And then for the second year, it's 500 hours in an advanced field placement. So both years. So you'll leave the program with two field practicums. Really, really great experience for your resume.
We have a webinar very similar to this that with our field team on March 19th. The 9th. Today is the 19th, March 9th. If you want to hear directly from the field team, it'll also be recorded. So we'll put that on our YouTube page as well. If you want kind of more of the details of like where they come from, how to find them, what the field team does to support you.
Mhm. Great team. I certainly encourage you all attending. All right, Sophie, sorry, you've had your hand up. Yeah.
Hi, yeah, thank you. I'm an admitted student, so I feel like I've been really thinking about like getting in, and now it's exciting to have a session to hear more about student life. So I have a few questions on the same vein of like Chicago and like specifically the Career Services Office. So one question I have is like I'm currently living in Chicago. I've been here for the past 5 years. And I'm thinking through like, do I want to live in Hyde Park or do I want to live in an area of the city I'm more familiar with?
Mm.
Could you speak to kind of like that dynamic of Crown students living in Hyde Park or the surrounding neighborhoods versus elsewhere and how that might impact things like field placements or
Mhm.
just like the overall experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent question. I think overall, students are living all around the city and surrounding suburbs. Certainly, I think students who really like to kind of roll out of bed and get to class quickly will be mostly in Hyde Park. But your field placement could, honestly be anywhere across the city. The field team does have a preference form where you will say where you're living or what neighborhoods you might have a preference, I guess, in. And they will try their best to get you somewhere that's not super far out of the way for your field placement. So they will ask where you live, and I think that will kind of also help dictate your field placement. Um, but yeah, I don't know that I have enough data to say. I feel like it's probably half and half of who live in Hyde Park and who live across the city. Some students start in Hyde Park in their first year, and then as they get more comfortable, go out, into other neighborhoods after the first year. So again, really depends. I'm trying to think. If there's any other things we should note. Oh, we do have a U-Pass. I think, thank you, Naomi, for asking about a car and public trans. So as it relates to neighborhoods and field, we do offer the U-Pass resource for students. So this is unlimited rides on the CTA buses and trains for each quarter. It will turn off during a couple of the breaks, but for the most part, it's something that you can utilize as you need to. So students absolutely use this to go back and forth to field and to class. But that allows you to live again anywhere, in the city. As long as you're close to a CTA line, or bus, you can kind of get wherever you need to go. There is parking here. I would say it's probably not the greatest. I think it's either expensive, or if you're doing kind of, street parking, free parking around here, you gotta get here early and try to find, your spot. So there's definitely folks who do that. It works. For others, it's easier to take, the bus or the train. And if you're at Hyde Park, you could also take one of the U Chicago shuttles. So they have shuttles that go around Hyde Park. So then you don't even have to use your U-Pass for that. So really, look, great transportation option. Chicago's a great city to get around as well. Um, but yeah, great questions.
Yeah, thank you. I
Hmm.
have one more question
Yeah.
around the career services office. So I know that there's obviously a big focus on like field placements through the field placement office and as well as connecting folks with like full-time roles after graduation. What are Crown students typically doing during the summer? Like if you were interested in doing an internship, whether it's micro or macro,
Hmm.
does the office also help connect students with those opportunities, or is that more of a on your own type of thing?
No, great question. It's a little bit of both. So absolutely, we do have some summer opportunities, internship or fellowship opportunities that come to us that then we send out to all students. Some students also, if they are having a great experience at their current field placement in that first year, they may continue on to do a different project or more hours at that field placement in the summer. So we've seen that happen. Some students also do either international trips or sort of other opportunities in the summer that they might not be able to do during the year. So if you're someone who really wants to maybe practice social work on a border and wants to go to Texas over the summer to do some of that work, some students will kind of organize their own specific thing that they want more experience in over the summer. So absolutely, our team can meet with you and help talk through what you want to do, what those options might be, what's here in Chicago or what's abroad, whatever your interests, might be. But absolutely, there's things in Chicago, opportunities that we know about that our students have done over the summer.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, great question. All right. Adesola?
Adeshala.
Adeshala.
Adeshala, thank you.
So good afternoon. So I am also an admitted student and I'll be coming from Detroit. So with regard to my transition, with housing and notice of financial aid, can anyone speak to when we would be notified about financial aid so that I can, I guess, just start maneuvering and doing all the things?
Absolutely. Go for it,
Yeah,
Ron.
yeah. Right now, we're anticipating. So, from the Graduate Financial Aid Office, they want to start packaging. I think the date they gave was around March 20th. That's an anticipated date. So you may be aware, there have been some changes to financial aid based on the One Big Beautiful Bill that was passed and its impact on the loan structure. And so right now, with the Department of Education, they're in the public comment stage of this bill that they're putting through in the designation of what's a professional school versus a graduate school. So we're not anticipating anything before March 2nd. And so it'd be really difficult for any institution to kind of, unless they're sort of like anticipating what they think theoretically, nothing's going to be official until we hear back finally from the Department of Education. So we're anticipating, so that's why they're working with like a March 20th date for packaging. And so it'd be sent out shortly after that. So probably most institutions, that's going to be the case this year. Things might be a little later.
Thank you.
Yeah. I can also share, going back to the conversation about moving to Chicago. I moved to Chicago from Rhode Island. So hooray for the New Englanders. And you'll have to start thinking in two time zones. But moving here for graduate school when I went to Loyola, and I did the thing where I lived really close to campus. It was super convenient. I ended up really liking it there, and I still actually live in the neighborhood. So I live way, way north of Chicago. I don't use a car regularly, or at all really. So I take public transportation. I take the Red Line all the way down. It's maybe about a 45-minute train ride. But as Kristen said, so at this particular train stop, the Garfield Red Line stop, for those of you familiar, I have access to either a CTA bus, the 59 bus, which drops off in front of my building, where I am specifically, or I can take the campus shuttle, which it does a continuous loop between the Green Line and the Red Line to campus, and it drops off at the building right next to Edith Abbott Hall. So two super convenient ways. So if you do want to take public transportation, it's way better than it used to be. Like this shuttle has been really in service now for just after pandemic. So I think it was in 22 it was introduced, give or take. And it's super, super convenient. It's like my favorite thing. So even though it's a bit of a commute, it actually gives me a lot of time to read or listen to podcasts. So if it may be more comfortable, obviously, for you to move closer into Hyde Park, Kenwood, or Woodlawn area, you could certainly live close to campus. But if you want to explore, I think Aaliyah, you did this too, right? You moved out when you were a student here, and then lived further. There's lots of ways to get here to campus that are pretty easy.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's pretty common for people who are moving from out of state to tend to start in Hyde Park. Just knowledge of the, unless they have somebody or know the neighborhoods, but just knowledge of everything. People who already live in Chicago, they tend to stay where they are comfortable,
Mhm.
either for a variety of reasons, because field placements can be matched. I will say it seems like more and more students are staying in Hyde Park in their second year than 10 years ago when I was a student.
Yeah.
I think that's attributed a lot to the increase of businesses and grocery stores and things to do in like the downtown Hyde Park area. Definitely would have been more of an intriguing place to stay for a second year for me if that the stuff that's here now was there. But we do still see quite a few people who leave. You'll know your field placement in the second year a
Mhm.
lot earlier, usually around now, March, April. And so planning, if you're more comfortable being closer to field, you can
Mhm.
plan to live in those neighborhoods and commute down or stay kind of in the reverse. So lots of different options, but it's definitely not
Mhm.
everyone's living in Hyde Park. Unless you want to be close to the gym, the resources, like that does make it
Mhm.
obviously a little easier to...
Yeah. Also down here, the Obama Center is going to be opening soon.
Mhm.
I forget, is there an opening date? Is it
I
I think it
think
still
this
says
summer.
June.
Yeah.
June? Okay.
June. I don't know the exact
But
date yet.
right, so we don't know yet what the impact is going to be. I mean, I anticipate there are probably going to be more grocery stores, more restaurants, more sort of like boutique shops, and just over the course of time as transportation to the center increases, depending, because they're going to have a community center. I'm sure they'll have programming. So there will be different reasons to come down. It's right next to the Museum of Science and Industry as well. So, we're just kind of waiting to see what the impact of like once it is open. But, so there could be some shifts in the neighborhood. So does Crown have any connections with the Obama Center? Because we do have the Obama Scholars Program.
Hmm.
So every year, it's Crown students and then students from the Booth School of Business and the Harris School of Public Policy. Typically it's like 18 students, so typically it's like six students from each school.
Hmm.
And it'd be students who are going to be in their last year of study. So if you're an advanced standing student, you can apply right away. But if you're full-time, it'd be in year two, part-time in year three, where you could apply. And if you're admitted, then it's like to work on a research project and you're in seminars and meeting in groups. I think there's a stipend involved or some scholarship money attached to that as well. But you're in community with, President Obama. So on LinkedIn, I saw like all the Obama scholars posting their pictures with President Obama, not so long ago. So it's a great opportunity. So yeah, we do, and once the center opens, I would anticipate that the university, who knows what might be already in the works and what's planned, but I could imagine like stronger connections.
Mhm.
Jessica?
Jessica? Yeah,
Hi, y'all. Do you guys hear me, by the way? My connection has been iffy. Hey,
yeah.
thank you guys so much for the information shared thus far. This has been super informative. And I think for me, kind of what I was hearing was that, a lot of students come from many different places. And I feel like that was something that I was a little bit nervous about because I'm originally from California, did my undergrad, moved right into Texas to become a professional here. And I'm considering Chicago, right, for graduate and internships. So I would say with that being said, maybe like if y'all can share a little bit more about the makeup of, the Crown family's, students in regards to like how many are homegrown in Chicago or Illinois, and then how many come from like out of state or even like abroad. And maybe even to like the professional makeup is, I think it would be really good for me to have because I come out of like, 4 years after undergrad. I've been working, but I want to go back to school. So I think even just having that perspective will be interesting.
I'll certainly have, Ron and Aaliyah chime in, but yeah, well, one, I would say I don't know the exact numbers in terms of how many Chicago out of state, but I think we've had a large amount of our students, if not half, a little bit more than half, perhaps, who certainly have come from out of state or the surrounding area. So I think it's a great mix of folks who are coming from different places, and then folks who are from Chicago, who know Chicago, who want to give back in their own communities. So I think it's a really great mix. And then our students end up all over. Our office also does licensure verification for the graduates once you're done. So we see the different states that our students are ending up in. So we've got graduates all over. Um, but yeah, I don't know, I think exact numbers, but we certainly always have, a cohort of students who are returning after some time, whether it's 4 years, 10, 20, sometimes we've got a range of students who are returning back to school after some time away. So I feel like you have some folks that you'd be able to connect with. We certainly have a nice amount who come straight from undergraduate too. So I think kind of no matter what your background might be or what your experience level coming in, I feel like there's still a community of folks who you can find and identify with and connect to. Yeah. Anything else to add, team?
I think I know I agree with everything. I think the numbers that I have, and this is, I think, actually probably now from not this current class, but last
Yeah.
year's class,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
the age range was at that time 21 to 54, 53, with the average age being 28. So that helps to give, those are all this combination of people who straight from undergrad, but also people who worked in the same field, also worked in very different fields, that kind of bridge those older that older range of 28 to 54. So it's definitely a nice mix. And I think that shows in the classroom and the experiences. I came straight from undergrad, and I think, I learned obviously a ton from the faculty and from field, but I learned just as much from my classmates who were either who were in social work before or in similar fields, and also those who were in sales or event planning because they're coming at things from a very different perspective. So it was nice to blend that, but it is very mixed. I will say, and you mentioned Texas, we're seeing quite a few applications from Texas, and we have quite a few students. One of our advanced tanning students, AD, is born and raised in and went to school in Texas. And talks a lot about why they chose to leave and come here and things like that. So if you want to chat with them, you can book calls with us or with the students. Many of them are from out of state and can talk to you about that experience, the moving, the decisions, those sorts of things.
Yeah. And I can't stress how much you said, Aaliyah, how, having folks who are coming from different experience levels in the classroom just enriches it so much. You all are bringing different strengths, different perspectives that all students need to hear. So yeah, it's important to us, and our faculty actually love having that mix too. So,
Thank you.
okay. Other questions, thoughts? I know we got just a couple more minutes. Okay.
Yeah, I think we answered everything in the chat.
Yeah, I think so. Well, certainly, if you have any other questions for me, I'm easy to find. If you just type my name, and obviously, our admissions team is wonderful. They will know most of the things I know as well. So yeah, we look forward to seeing hopefully all of y'all in the fall or summer if you're advanced standing. But thank you so much for coming today, for listening. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kristen. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your afternoon.